Welcome to my predictions of UFC Fight Night Cannonier vs Imavov. I will be covering the full card, starting from the early prelims going all the way to the main event, and we are starting with the first prelim fight, which is Rayanne dos Santos versus Puja Tomar. Not much fight tape on these two fighters inside the UFC. Rayanne dos Santos has had one fight at UFC Vegas and another fight on Dana White's Contender Series, but mostly fights in other promotions. I believe Puja Tomar also is the first female fighter from India to be signed to the UFC, so congratulations on that achievement, but not much UFC fight tape from that. As far as what I've watched on both girls in their fights, including other promotions, Puja will have the more well-rounded stand-up game. She fires off some nice kicks, has some very nice high kicks specifically, and Rayanne dos Santos has decent stand-up, mostly peppers her opponents with a 1-2, but to give her credit, she does take her head off the center line, and she does have quite a solid impact and accuracy when she does fire. I do think there's a real grappling advantage for Rayanne going into this fight. I'm sure Tomar's team has been working, but I can see Rayanne going out there, getting a little scrappy since Tomar's not afraid of trading, and then clinching up, getting a trip, and working her way to getting a finish, maybe by submission in either the second or third round in this fight. Hard to pick, but I'm going with Rayanne dos Santos. And we move on. Cody Stamann versus Taylor Lapilus. This fight's a super close one. I could see it going either way, honestly, but I'm going to go with Cody Stamann. I think this will end up going to a close decision, maybe a split decision, and I'm hoping Cody can do enough with his takedowns and mixing it up on the feet versus Taylor Lapilus to get the dub. Taylor has some great takedown defense and is a bit sharper on the feet than Cody, and that's why this pick has me a bit nervous. I could definitely see a version of this fight playing out where Lapilus keeps it standing and outpoint strikes Cody to win a decision, but I'm still going to go with Cody, thinking he can put on a high pace, have a high striking output, and out-grapple Lapilus to a decision win. And all of Cody's losses have been relatively close, besides his submission loss to Saeed Nurmagomedov, and some of his losses were to Aljamain Sterling and Merab, so definitely not low-level losses. I just think he wins this fight. Moving on to Eduarda Moura versus Denise Gomez. Striker versus grappler matchup here. Gomez is the more explosive puncher, and definitely poses the threat on the feet. There's a solid chance she goes out there and rocks Eduarda Moura in this fight. I say this because Eduarda Moura does have a tendency to leave her chin up in the air at times as she comes in, but I do think the grappling advantage may be too much for Denise Gomez to deal with. Gomez is still young, only 24, and has made mistakes in the grappling exchanges in her fight against Angela Hill. I think this will only get worse as the fight goes on, and Gomez is quite explosive and slows down in the later rounds. I'm calling a decision or a late rounds finish, second or third round for Eduarda Moura, most likely ground and pound. And we move on. John Castaneda versus Daniel Marcos. Man, this whole card is full of close fights that could go either way. Marcos is definitely the more technical striker, great defensive responsibility, fantastic knees, and great straight punches down the pipe. I think he's quite a decent favorite going into this fight, and he's undefeated on his way up. Only got that no contest in his last fight with Keeling Aori. I do think he gets this done. I think he can keep this standing and hurt John Castaneda in the first round or the second round and finish him then and there. I give John a solid chance at maybe grappling Marcos and getting a decision win. He's also got a very good and sneaky left high kick that has rocked his opponents in the past, but I'm siding with Daniel Marcos by TKO finish in the first or second round. I can really just see him landing a big shot on John Castaneda. We move on. Brad Katona versus Jesse Butler. I'm going to go with Brad Katona here. I say that since I think that Brad is just better as a fighter than Jesse Butler all around. Brad is athletic, he's explosive, and he can fire off some very hard shots when he chooses to dart in. Brad has more experience battling higher level fighters like Merab, and Jesse is very open. He gets hit often by some solid shots, and I don't think he will be able to sustain that. He took a solid shot against Jim Miller in his last fight and got slumped out cold in the first 20 seconds of his UFC debut. Hard UFC debut to be versing a legend in Jim Miller, but it is what it is. I can see Jesse getting clipped in the fight again, and then being finished in either the first or second by TKO or sub. Hopefully he fixes some of these holes in his game, but I just don't think so. Brad Katona is not even a finisher. I don't think he's knocked anyone out in his whole career besides a body shot finish, but I can see it happening for some reason. Either way, Brad gets this done by finish or maybe a decision win. And we move on. Andrea Lee versus Montana De La Rosa. This hasn't been a good look for both girls. Andrea Lee is coming off of 4 losses in a row. Montana De La Rosa is coming off of 3 losses in a row. Both girls did fight previously around 5 years ago, and Andrea Lee did win that fight by decision. Honestly, this is a coin flip. I could see Montana De La Rosa winning a decision. I think she's improved more out of the two since their last contest. She may be able to get into a rhythm with her striking game in this fight, but Andrea just still has more output. Basically just saying she's got a greater volume of strikes. in the striking, and I think she nullifies a lot of the grappling exchanges since her defensive grappling is quite good. I'm going to go with Andrea Lee via decision win, but I don't think it'll be a super exciting fight, and it could still go either way. And we move on. Charles Radke versus Carlos Prates. This is an exciting fight on this card. Definitely a sleeper fight if you aren't a hardcore fan. I think this fight ends in a finish for sure. Prates is a KO machine and is a crazy Muay Thai practitioner. He's very patient, strong and fast kicks, great teeps and knees to the body. Radke is also a powerful puncher, is a solid counter puncher, definitely a lot more physically imposing than Carlos Prates. I think I favor Prates in this fight. He's got a 6-inch reach advantage, has some very nice kicks. The man fights well at a distance. I think he will be able to catch Radke on the feet in a firefight potentially sometime in the 2nd or 3rd round. It's very close, but I lean towards Carlos Prates by finishing this fight. I wouldn't be surprised to see it go the other way though. We move on. Thiago Moises versus Ludovic Klein. This is a close fight. I think Thiago will have the grappling advantage big time going into this fight. He's got very smooth transitions in his takedowns. I could even see him getting a first round rear naked choke submission after a clean back take on the feet. Klein is dangerous though. He'll have the advantage in the stand up. He's very light on his feet. And I just think Thiago Moises' decision win via dominantly grappling Ludovic Klein is the most likely scenario. I'm locking this in for my pick. And we move on. On to the main card. Miguel Baeza versus Punahele Soriano. This one has so many factors attached to this fight. Baeza has been out of action for around 2 years and is on a 3-fight losing streak, and Soriano has lost 4 out of his last 5, so both guys desperately need a win here. I do think that Baeza is by far the cleanest striker, even though he lost his last bout to Fialho, and this was when Fialho was on a good run and doing quite well in the division. He also clipped Fialho multiple times in that fight, had great moments. I think I can see Baeza getting a TKO finish in the 1st or 2nd round. I think Soriano is just too hittable. He doesn't move his head enough and was dropped by Stoltzfus, who's also on this card and then got submitted in that fight. I'm just hoping that he looks solid after his 2-year layoff. Baeza by TKO finish in the 1st or 2nd round. And we move on. Julian Marquez versus Zachary Reese. Listen guys, I think this is going to be a sloppy brawl, I'll be honest. Both guys are not the most technical on the feet, and they get hit quite a lot in these exchanges. Both are coming off of KO losses, and Reese got KO'd by Cody Brundage, picking him up and slamming his head into the canvas. I do think that Julian Marquez might be able to have a better exchanges to knock out Zachary Reese, so that is why I'm picking him to win this fight via 1st or 2nd round KO. And this is because Zach keeps his chin way up high in the air every time he's fighting. This is a toss-up at best to see who slumps who out first, I'll be honest. Reese does have pretty slick submissions off of his back, so there is a potential he could get one while Marquez follows him to the ground after an exchange. But anyways, I'm locking in Julian Marquez by 1st or 2nd round KO. And we move on. Brunno Ferreira versus Dustin Stoltzfus. I'm going to go with Brunno Ferreira via 1st or 2nd round KO. The reason I say this is because I think Stoltzfus will start to accumulate damage in the 1st round if he doesn't get knocked out. I think Ferreira will be able to stuff a lot of the takedown attempts and keep this standing, where he will have success in this fight. Brunno Ferreira is a nasty finisher, man. He's finished every fight he's ever won. The guy's too strong, and I think he will be able to impose himself on Stoltzfus in this bout. And we move on. Raul Rosas Jr. versus Ricky Turcios. Man, I like both of these guys. Ricky seems like a funny character and a chill dude overall, and Raul Rosas is a young guy, up-and-comer who's gotten a lot of spotlight so far in this sport. I do think Raul Rosas will win this bout against Ricky Turcios solely because of the grappling advantage. The kid is crazy good, relentless pressure. I just don't know how Turcios will deal with the pressure early on. There's a chance that Raul decides to pace himself more, but every bout he's ever had, he's just so explosive. For this reason, I'm actually going to be picking Raul Rosas Jr. to win this fight via 1st round submission, but there's a good chance he wins a solid 29-28 decision as well. And we move on. Dominick Reyes versus Dustin Jacoby. Man, this is sad. Dominick Reyes beat John Jones, and now he's on a 4-fight losing streak. 3 losses in a row have been by KO as well, and now he's versing Dustin Jacoby. It's crazy because if this was 3 fights earlier in Reyes' career, I think I would be definitely picking him to beat Jacoby, but at this point I just can't. Jacoby's very elusive, he's light on his feet and can tag you with a decent amount of power. I just don't see Dominick Reyes doing well if he doesn't find him and put him away. I honestly would love if Dominick won this fight. The guy deserves a solid comeback. However, I will be going with Dustin Jacoby to win via decision over Dominick Reyes. and we move on. On to your main event, Jared Cannonier versus Nassourdine Imavov. Finally onto the main event of the fight night, guys. Where do I start? Jared's last performance against Vettori showcased not only his ability to recover from damaging shots in the first round, but to recover and dish out a lot of damaging volume punches for the next 4 rounds of that fight. I think Jared has the advantage and experience of going 5 rounds. I think he's versed opponents who are more dangerous and technical on the feet than Imavov, like Whittaker, and Cannonier even managed to recover when he got hurt in the Whittaker fight as well. I think Imavov will be dangerous in the first 2 rounds of this fight, don't get me wrong, but if he doesn't finish Cannonier then and there, I don't think it's good news for him. I don't think Imavov will be able to deal with the pace or the 5-round fight as well as someone like Cannonier. I think he gasses out towards the later rounds and potentially takes a lot of damage in this fight in rounds 3, 4, and 5. Imavov started slowing down in his 5-rounder with Strickland and became way easier to hit in the later rounds, and you can't slow down and be hit like that against Jared Cannonier. My final prediction is Cannonier getting a decision victory or being able to TKO Imavov in the later rounds due to his volume and relentless pressure. That's it for my predictions on UFC Fight Night Cannonier versus Imavov. Please let me know what you thought in the comments below, and let me know if there's any questions you may have for me about upcoming UFC events. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and see you guys next time.